All right, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. This is the first episode. I haven't decided of a name yet, but soon I will. But for my very first podcast, my very first guest comes from Diamond Bar, from the law offices of Michael Yapp, attorney Michael Yapp. Thanks for joining me, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
So the reason why I wanted you to be my first guest is because, one, I love your passion. I know you're passionate about what you do. And I'm just proud of you. You know, I know that, you're on this journey. You're representing injured workers just like I am. Oftentimes, you and I sit down and we talk about the struggles that we go through and whatnot. So I want to sit down with you and have you share your story with everyone about being an attorney.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
And, the reason why I came all the way out here for you is because I know you're an aggressive attorney, and I respect it a lot. Your name echoes in the trenches as an aggressive litigator. So to sit here with you, share my story, like I'm kind of honored, man. Super honored, actually.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I just have one rule for this podcast, all right? I don't want you to say any answers that you're going to say because you think people want them to say or that you think people want to hear or politically correct. I want you to be honest, tell the truth. And I know that's what you're capable of. You know, you and I have been friends for some time, so that's why I'm happy to have you.
Are we allowed to cuss on this podcast?
You're allowed to say whatever you
Cool,
want,
man.
all right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so wait, how long have you been representing injured workers?
So I started off as a law clerk in San Diego for an applicant firm, I believe like 2015, 2016. So I learned workers' comp through a really great firm in San Diego. Law office Thomas D. Benedetto, shout out.
Cool.
And then I worked as an associate for I believe a year and a half. Then I had my first son, so I moved back to the LA area, Orange County, and I worked for a defense firm for like 2.5 years before opening up my own office.
Okay, when did you open your own office?
I believe it was June 6th of 2022.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I know you had prior defense like experience too.
Yeah, so that's something like we both have in common.
Yeah. It provides a unique perspective for sure.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So when you say you're a defense attorney, you're representing insurance companies and employers,
Yeah,
right?
third-party administrators, self-insureds. You know how it goes, man.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole bag.
What side do you like more?
Both of them are different. You know what I mean? As you know, like working for adjusters, it's they speak your language, so they understand like workers' comp.
Yeah.
Versus like representing injured workers, it's like you have to tell them the benefits and what they're entitled to or what they're not entitled to. But representing injured workers is way more rewarding, man. You know, so it's like, when you have a denied case and you're able to like get accepted and the benefits start rolling, it's like that little spark in their eye, man. It keeps you going. Puts a little gasoline in the car to keep going, man. Yeah.
I get that. I remember like when I was defense attorney, I started doing defense. And that was right when I was brand new being a lawyer. And so I was fortunate to be working in-house for a staffing company where we were like litigate everything. Every case you get, you got to litigate. We don't settle. If we're going to settle, it's going to be for pennies on the dollar, which provided me great training, right?
For sure.
And it was fun. I was passionate about it just because I've always wanted to be a lawyer, so that was fun. But I will say that when I switched sides in 2019, representing injured workers is where I really found my passion, where it was more rewarding. I was like, okay, like I'm actually doing some good out here. I don't think I could say the same when I was representing insurance companies.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, man. When you come across like adjusters who just are like gung-ho about like litigating every issue, it's not really like economically feasible for them, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, all right, I can do it, but the probability of you winning is slim, but
Yeah.
I'll go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you, man, like coming back from like lobby day and doing the thing. We met up in call. Like I remember, like you had a long list of issues you're about to like go at, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So it's cool, like seeing like an attorney like that for sure. Like,
Yeah,
you know what
I
I mean?
appreciate
'Cause
that.
when you speak to some attorneys, you're kind of like, oh man, like you know what I mean, or like, yeah. So I don't know. It just workers' comp is hard, man.
It is hard.
As you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like doing what we do, representing injured workers, it's like their benefits are so limited, man.
Yes.
And just to tell them like, hey, like you're entitled to like some of these major benefits, and they're like, well, what about like pain and suffering? I know you get that question a lot, and unfortunately, that's like the toughest part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Telling like you don't get compensated for pain and
Yeah,
suffering.
workers' comp, you're not entitled to pain and suffering, you're only entitled to permanent disability,
Yeah.
future medical care, temporary disability, which is payment for when you're not able to work due to your injury.
Yeah, man. TTD or temporary total disability benefits, that benefit's even capped.
Yeah.
You know, medical mileage, you can only get so much.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even get paid TTD the time off and go see a doctor.
Yeah.
So, like, to tell people this, it's like, hey, it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's like, I know it's not fair, you know? Like,
So I
Yeah.
guess it's safe to say we both know we're on the right side.
Oh, yeah, man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's hard, but it's like, to answer your question earlier, it's rewarding, though. You know?
Yeah.
Just tell someone, like, hey, like, these are the benefits you're owed, and they're finally getting it. They're like, oh, cool, you know?
Yeah. You would agree that anyone who's injured here in California while working, the system is not against them. I mean, the system is against them, I should say.
Yeah, like, I just to piggyback off of that, like, it just, the laws are so, like, limited, you know? And it's like, to explain that to someone who thinks, like, they're entitled to every single, like, these benefits you see on TV, like, general and special damages, like all the fancy words. It's like, no, like, these are, like, this is how we measure the value of your claim, or
Yeah.
these are the benefits you get, you know? Even, like, when a case goes through, like, UR, or utilization review, for people who are watching,
Yeah.
you know, they deny it. They're like, how can they deny it?
Yeah.
You're like, they can right now, you know, and went
Yeah.
through, like, this blind doctor, you know, and then they said you're not even entitled to the particular treatment. What we can do? IMR, independent medical review, right? I know you guys do that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I have to wait 30 days or whatever for a
Yep.
response. It's like, I know you're hurting. Like, if I can get you all the benefits in the world,
Yeah.
I'll drop it off in front of your doorstep, you
Yeah.
know? But unfortunately, I can't. I'm pretty sure you go through the same
Yeah,
struggles, man.
I think though the difference I see between you and two, I think that you let these cases bleed into your personal life. Do you let
For
them
sure.
take a personal toll on your life?
Yeah, because, like, you know, when you get, like, a new client in the door and, like, you hear their story, it's like, you know, coming from, like, I guess our same backgrounds, right? Because we both went to the same law school. It's
Yeah.
like, you can't help but, like, see, like, oh, your uncle, your aunt, like, you know, your mom or
Yeah.
dad or whatever. It's fascinating. It's like, I know I'm not supposed to, I guess, like, get that personal
Yeah.
about it, but it's like, oh, man, like, you're a caretaker and, like, you know, you blew your back out carrying, like, a big, you know, patient.
Yeah.
You can't help but, like, see that they're actually suffering, you know?
Yep.
And, like, you try to do everything you can, you know? I know you guys do it too, like, threaten, petition for penalties and all this other stuff. File
Yeah.
expedited, man, you know? It's like, sometimes, you know, like, just to tell them, like, hey, you gotta wait a little longer kind of sucks,
Yeah.
you know?
I remember you called me on this one time. It was not too long ago. And you were like, Robert, you know, I have a client. I don't know what the issue was. You know, probably they weren't getting paid. They're on the, you know, they're telling you they're on the verge of on the verge of eviction. And I think they asked to borrow some money. Is that right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Did you let them borrow money?
I let them borrow money,
You
man.
let them borrow money?
Yeah, I told them, like, don't worry about it, you know, just
Okay.
hopefully, like, you know, because they had kids or whatever. I'm like, hey, like,
Yeah.
but you can't help but, like, feel, like, you know,
Yeah.
because, like, you know, coming from, like, I guess some similar backgrounds, you know, it's like everyone hurt for money one day in their, like, one time in their life, man. You know?
I understand. I guess so I have a personal rule at my law firm. Like we don't let people borrow
Yeah.
money, just because, you know, if I do it for one client, then I may have to do it for all other clients. Most of the time, almost all the time, we win our cases, right? Sometimes I tell clients like, hey, if I'm signing you up, it's a for sure win. It's just a matter of how much, right? So eventually, like, yeah, we'll get you a settlement and you can pay us back. But I know it's an iffy line to cross.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, even we have rules that we need to abide by as attorneys, and they do, quote unquote, it is a conflict of interest to lend clients money unless you have it in writing and you have the agreement, which, you know, so we are allowed to do it. But a lot of lawyers do that. Or, you know, what they do, which is different. And I don't know if they do it in workers' comp. In personal injury, they have the lending companies. Do you know about this?
No.
Okay,
No.
so when you have a personal injury claim and you don't have any money, you can lend money. You can get money from a lending company that will file a lien in your claim. The only thing is that the interest is very high.
Oh, really? What's the interest rate on that?
I don't know, but I know
Yeah.
it's high, and I know
Wow.
that, you know, I just started practicing PI, and I know that a lot of attorneys, you know, they steer their clients away from this because the interest rate is high, and I don't know, so sometimes it's frowned upon, but there definitely are, you know, those type of companies out there. Legal funding is what they call it, right? And so what the legal funding company will do is they will evaluate your case, right? Let's say you got hit by a commercial vehicle. So now you have a commercial policy. You're looking at maybe $1 million policy. So it's like, okay, we can afford to lend you $50,000 because your injuries are pretty severe or whatnot. They don't have that in workers' comp, which is,
No.
I guess unfortunate. I don't know.
Yeah, as you know, man, even temporary total disability benefits is 2/3 of an average weekly wage,
Yeah.
right? So like people, like even if you explain it to them hundreds of times, they're like, hey, like you gotta brace yourself for like your lower income or whatever. They're still shocked, or they collect EDD and it's it will say disability. The process when a case becomes denied, it takes a while, right?
Yeah,
You
it
know what I
takes
mean?
months.
Yeah, it's not like you sign the paper and like the next day, like the check gets like direct deposit.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah, you tell them that, and they're like, "What? Like, what am I supposed
Yeah.
to do for money?" It's like, I told you, man, before you went in this endeavor with me that
Yeah.
it's tough.
Sometimes it's months before they get paid.
Yeah, man,
I
it's
tell them
crazy.
that's like, hey, and you can call. The phone line's going to be busy, so you just got to continue to call every single day. But they will get the back pay, yes, of course. But things,
Yeah, it might take a while.
yeah, payments are due.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What was your, like, do you remember, like, a case, obviously we're not going to name names, that, like, it was pretty challenging for you, or you felt, like, pretty, like, okay, this one, like, I'm going all the way with this one for
Yeah,
sure.
let's see. I mean, for sure, there's a few. Okay, one of my favorite cases where it was just an uphill battle because the doctors were against us, but it was an asbestos case. This guy was breathing. Everyone was against us, I should say. So this guy was breathing in asbestos for the longest time, right? And he develops pleural thickening of his lungs, which just means he has plaque on his lungs, right? And he's going to the hospital. He's getting treatment and everyone's like, it's very apparent this guy's lungs have thickened and there's plaque there, right? First of all, the employer's saying like, we haven't. Asbestos was banned in 1990, whatever, right?
Yeah.
In the early 1900s. So how could he be working with asbestos? It was banned. Just bullshit, right? Just because it's banned
Right.
doesn't mean that you weren't using asbestos,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And so I told him,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, this is what the employer's saying. Like, what do you have to say about that? And he said the same thing. That's total bullshit. He said, I go meet with all my old coworkers. At this time, he was retired. He filed the claim after he was retired because this injury develops later on, right? And that latency period is what we call it. And he's like, I go meet my old coworkers every Friday. We go for donuts and coffee. And he was like, and I'll ask them. And he told me, he's like, they all said the same thing. We used to remember packages of asbestos being delivered. They worked at like a tortilla factory, I think. So, the employer took that stance. Your client's fucking lying because he's never worked with
Oh,
asbestos.
those are my favorite type of, defensive,
right?
yeah. Everybody's a liar, apparently, yeah.
And then the second thing is, the doctor was saying this: your client doesn't have an injury.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean my client doesn't have an injury, right? The state neutral doctor, the QME is what we call them, the qualified medical evaluator. He said, your client doesn't have an injury. I said, what do you mean doesn't have an injury? He has pleural thickening. He has plaque on his lungs. You know that. You said that. And he says, yes, but it's not affecting him negatively yet. Right? Is it because his functions are all within normal? They did some tests where you blow into a balloon and whatever, right? And it was all within normal limits. True. And then I said, okay, but he will develop an injury, correct?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, but he hasn't developed it yet. And the question being posed to me before the court is whether he has an injury or not. And then I said, okay. And then he said, or I asked him something, when do you think this injury will come into fruition? He said, I don't know. He said, and when it does, what's going to be the end result, right?
Yeah.
And he says, I forgot what he said, but I said, eventually he can die from this injury. Then he has an injury, right? And the doctor was like, yeah, very much so. So, that was kind of that case where everything was
stacked against you?
Yeah, stacked against me. And, I really didn't know what to do. We eventually settled the case, and, I settled it for an amount that I thought was fair, but not worth what it should be. But I told I basically could tell my client, I tell everyone, I said, I'll stall this case. What do you want me to stall this case until this guy dies? Then you're gonna have a death claim on your hand, right? So like,
sure.
what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And so that's why kind of that case was one of my favorite because I just knew like everything was against us, and so yeah. How about you? What's one of your good cases?
I had a case where, like, I don't know if I could talk about this one because this one's current, But my favorite ones were like the insurance company, because we see this often, right? When the insurance company denies it based on or lack of substantial medical evidence, the weakest defense ever. Go to a QME, refuse to pick up the claim, set it for a priority conference, do the pre-trial conference statement, and you have a client and the defense attorney is like saying like, yeah, we don't believe she has an injury, Really, you're a doctor now,
Yeah.
You got the PTP lean doctor, right? Industrial. You have
Yeah.
the QME industrial. Everyone's telling industrial. They're like, no, I don't believe your client. Took it to trial, multi-day, got it overturned, and the case became accepted. Then they go back, and it's like there's a TTD issue, right? I'm like, really? You want to go round 2, Set it for an expedited hearing. They had no defense, no like real substantive defense. Present medical evidence that, hey, modified work. They're like, well, she quit, so we could have provided her with a modified work. I was like, oh, really? Didn't make anything in writing, no emails, no like reach out. Come back, got her TTD benefits, retroactive, right?
Yeah, temporary disability benefits.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like when you have cases like those are super challenging because it's like, as you know, man, like numerous expediteds based on like TTD after post ABCOE. You have to do like a priority conference and like you have to set for trial, so you're prepping the file. It's like, those are my favorite ones, but the most challenging ones, because you have to put on a direct examination, brace for a cross or redirect, and, and it's like you're telling a client who's losing all hope in workers' comp, that like, hey, like give me a little bit more time. And then when you like get that award or the findings, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's an industrial injury. And they're like, oh great, now what? You know what I mean? It's like, you get treatment in the medical provider network, and you get temporary disability benefits. They're like, oh, cool, Now
we got to use their doctors.
Yeah, so it's like that's another thing too. It's fascinating. You have like a good lean doctor, you kind of lose that lean doctor, and you have to go in the MPN. And, as you know, workers' comp medical provider networks. I feel like they're getting diminished.
Yeah.
Out in my area, there's few doctors who are like industrial clinic doctors. And some of these doctors are like picky and taking the case. They want to review the records, and you have to wait a little bit. And, that's for me right now is like the biggest challenge,
Yeah.
Just trying to get the appointment quick enough for them to like feel like they're getting medical attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason it feels like getting a panel is quicker than getting like a PTP appointment.
Absolutely. It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
It sucks,
Yeah. I do have a case that's coming up that I know I will be victorious, and it will be a good win. Especially it comes from a referral from my friend. It's a family member of his. Basically, she worked at a nursing home, taking care of the elderly people who live there. And on I forget what Spanish holiday it was, and the staff decided, hey, we're gonna get together and we're gonna put on a little dance for the seniors.
Nice. Yeah.
And when she's doing, she gets injured. She injures her knee, and the insurance and the employer, they deny her case. They're like, we are not going to accept liability for your injury because you shouldn't have been doing that. And I was like, that's total bullshit. The managers knew, supposedly the manager was sitting right there watching them do it. He should have said, stop, you guys shouldn't be doing that. And for me, it's all about whether, because to have an injury, you have to have, the injury has to occurred within the course of employment, right? And to me, that means like you had to be furthering the interest of the employer, right? Because sometimes they're gonna say, well, that wasn't in her job description. Yeah, and like neither was taking out the trash, but if she took out the trash, like she's furthering the company's interest, right? And that's what she was doing. She was making the patients feel better. They live there. This is their residence, and so that's the shit that just pisses me off. But we are set for trial pretty here soon, and they assigned a real dick of an attorney to the case. So, I'm going to be able to see him one-on-one in court.
Yeah,
me too.
Man.
Absolutely.
I love that. Like they provide that type of energy. Like, all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'll see you like
Same.
at that hearing, then I'm set up for trial. They're like,
yep.
They're like talking crap via email, this and that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I am super competitive, and I always try to maintain a good relationship with
Oh, for
defense
sure.
counsels, opposing
Yeah.
counsel, because like, hey, like we're gonna have many cases. You know,
Correct.
even there's been times where I tell the clients, be like, hey, like you may see me in court, and like I may be joking around with him, and I may be smiling and sharing a laugh with him, but that's because I'm gonna see him on future cases, and I need to have good rapport with him, and maybe it's gonna help, in your case here too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But sometimes some attorneys, they take their jobs to, they just take it seriously, and they're assholes for no reason, right?
Yeah, I don't know about you in this area, man, but in my area, it's like sometimes I see that within like the younger attorneys, like fresh out the bar,
Yeah.
trying to make a name for themselves,
Yeah.
and it's like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 4600 issue, you already know, like I got you dead to rights, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like give me the authorization, and they're like, why are you filing expedited, this and that, or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm like, because I can,
Yeah.
and I will, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, and you look them up on the state bar website. It's, oh, cool! Like you
Yeah.
just got your bar card. Like I get it now,
Yeah.
Because usually veteran attorneys will like email like, hey, sorry, I apologize. Like authorization here. Like here's a joint request for OTOC or take it
Yeah.
off calendar. And you're like, perfect. And you just walk away, and then you wait for the initial report, and you
Yeah.
litigate from there. And it's like kind of like you could run the normal course.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that I don't understand why some of these defense attorneys, they get so sour. Like you go to court hearing, you win, you file for a court hearing, and they're like, what the heck? Why are you doing this? Like, and they let it carry over. There's a case. I have a partner, Erwin, right? He was
Yeah.
on a case, and
Shout out to Erwin, by the way.
shout out to Erwin. We'll be seeing him afterwards.
Yeah.
He was on this case, and he was at a deposition, and he was with the defense counsel, and him and the defense counsel, they really got into it, and they exchanged some heated words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Let me take over the case, because the relationship here is sour. But this attorney, like, she just has it out for us now. She just, she will not agree to anything. We're gonna have to litigate everything, and it's just like, it's not worth it. Like, you shouldn't take this home and sleep with it, right? This
No.
is a job. Like, we have a job. I think if anything, like, we're the ones who have to take this home and sleep with it, because
Oh, yeah.
we have people who we care about. These people are representing $1 million fucking companies,
Right.
$1 billion companies. Like, it ain't your money, like,
Yeah.
why you need to cry about that? So
Yeah.
that's a huge pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, and it's like, sometimes defense attorneys take like crazy positions. It's like, I don't think that's, I mean, I've never heard of that argument,
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you're like in court and they like concede or whatever, and it's like, dude, I had to drive 40 minutes just
Yeah.
to get this piece of paper, man.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's frustrating. It's like, okay. But sometimes when that happens, I remember that though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, all right, go back and like get the specialty you want to PQ me,
Yeah.
serve it the same day and be like,
Yeah.
all right, bro, like,
There's definitely some attorneys on our hit list, we call.
Oh, yeah.
Or we share a text message exchange like, yo, watch out for this guy.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, my advice to defense attorneys is like, hey, like, you should be cordial, because if you're not, like, you're going to be put on some type of list that when I see a file on your name, like, right off the bat, like, I'm going to blow your shit up, basically.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like multiple, like
Yeah.
specialists, like
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like priority, like expedite, priority comp, whatever.
Yeah.
Like yeah, exactly. Like it's cool because we're part of an organization called California Applicant Attorney Association.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just a great organization to share like information, like your experiences
Yes.
on cases, and how you like approach litigation. And it's like, you see sometimes you hear about like attorneys, like defense attorneys taking like egregious position. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
like is that really in your like client's best interest?
Yeah, is it in their client's best interest?
Yeah, it's
I
like-
say that too. It's like, hey, you're not taking your client's best interest to heart, because your client's best interest is for you to resolve this case, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're here to administer benefits, right? You're not here to like defend against them. You're here to administer benefits and make sure that, yes, we do not take advantage of you or advantage of the workers' comp system. But yeah, they love to just, they want to litigate and they want to spend more money, and it's not in the best interest. I think, so the best thing that I always learned, or the most important thing I learned as a defense attorney, is it's all about money, right?
Yeah.
They're an insurance company. Bottom line, it's about money.
Pragmatism, for sure.
Yeah.
Pragmatism, because workers' comp, if you've done enough cases, it's like you already know the probability of a win on that issue is low.
Yeah.
Right? So when you see like defense attorneys take a certain position, it's like,
Yeah.
really? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, all right,
Yeah.
and it's fascinating. It's like, I don't know who taught you that move, but it's not going to work,
Yeah.
So you see that too. Question for you.
Yes.
Do you guys have a lot of good doctors in the MPN out in this area?
I will say that we have the best doctors in the MPN are in this area in LA. I
Yeah.
think the best doctors
Yeah.
within the network are in Los Angeles. So if an insurance company accepts liability, right? They have a medical provider network, and we're required to treat in that network. Mike and I are always complaining, like, "Oh my gosh, we
Yeah.
have to treat in this damn network. There's no good doctors. All the doctors are at Concentra. I'll shit on Concentra all day. Whenever I get clients, I'm like, yo, Concentra is the devil. Am I right or am I right? Concentra is just a clinic that is
That's where the employer sends you to.
yeah,
off the bat,
immediately.
yeah.
So if you fall at work, they immediately send you to this one clinic, Concentra, and Concentra has hundreds of clinics all throughout California. And if you get a network, if you tell the insurance company, let me see the list of doctors. I want to see all the list of orthopedic surgeons within a 30-mile radius of my client's house. And they'll give you the list, and more than half of those doctors are from fucking Concentra. And it's like, this is a complete bias. But to answer your question, yes, there are a lot of good doctors in networks in Los Angeles. The further you get outside of LA, the harder it is to get doctors. I have clients if you're treating in the network, you're entitled to mileage reimbursement for going to your doctor's appointments within a 15-mile radius. So 15 miles there, 15 miles back, you're entitled to. I have clients who, live out in, a little further outside of LA, and I tell them, like, hey, I honestly think it's best that you drive to LA for treatment. No, you're not going to get that full, 15, 30-mile reimbursement, but you'll get all 30 miles, but you're not going to get all of it, but it's worth it. There's some good doctors here. Yeah.
Like, I struggle with pulmonologists in my area.
Of
like,
course.
COVID cases, like, I had to literally file an expedited to get the authorization because they're outside the mileage.
Yeah.
Or the miles, and it's like there's no one though. There's no one taking
Yeah.
workers' comp in my area.
Yeah.
That's frustrating, man.
One of my favorite things is to get them to pay for treatment outside of the network. Right.
To breach the NPN.
Yeah,
you can do that for
exactly.
sure.
Yeah, that's always one issue I'm pushing right now is because if a client has a serious and chronic condition, you can get the insurance company to authorize treatment outside of the MPN, right? And what's a serious and chronic condition? I don't know. That's up for the judge to decide, but, we can list through a lot of different cases. But I have a client who, he's had multiple neck surgeries, and he's been dealing with, spinal issues for the past 5 years. That's pretty serious to have multiple
Chronic condition for sure, man, for sure.
Multiple surgeries, and it sure as hell sounds like it's chronic, so that I think, and he was treating with his doctor outside the network, right? So, and then the worst part is we get him in the network, get him to a good doctor, Dr. Joe Lee from Congress Orthopedic. I'll shout him out all day, baby.
Shout out Dr. Lee, man.
He's a good doctor. I send him there.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee's like, look, I can't treat this guy because I shouldn't be treating him. I didn't do his surgeries. I think it's inappropriate for me to step in and do treatment, right? Gets denied, right? Send him to another orthopedic doctor. Doctor's like, I can't treat this condition because it's too serious. He's had too many surgeries. His surgeries were just too soon. I'm like, sounds like he should just be treated by the ortho surgeon who's treating outside of workers' comp. And this is an accepted injury. I tell the attorney, hey, please just have your client authorize this doctor at Cedars-Sinai who's not in the network. And he's like, oh, we'll see about it, right? Fucking 2 weeks later, I get the email. It's like, hey, we're not going to authorize it. And I was like, I thought you guys would do the right thing. And he's like, we just have a difference of opinion of what the right thing is. Yeah, right, bro. But anyway, so I filed for a hearing on that. We're set on that. And I think the judge is going to rule in my favor that this is a serious and chronic injury, and it's valid to treat outside the network. Or my second one also too is like, if they don't offer medical treatment immediately, right? Somebody slips and falls at work, and they deny care, then you can treat outside the MPN. If not on a denied case, if the case later on has become accepted, say, hey, the insurance company lost control of treatment. They can no longer control treatment. That means that I can pick any doctor and they have to authorize that. And I've won on that issue before, and this is one of my favorite issues to win on.
Yeah, doctors, as you know, workers' comp have limited benefits. There's 4 major ones plus the minor ones, But a lot of these are controlled by the doctors,
Yeah.
The quickness of a case, it's fascinating when a defense attorney argues, oh, we're not going to authorize it because it's a chronic and serious injury or whatever, and it's outside the MPN. it's in your client's best interest to expedite the resolution of this file.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, there's
Absolutely.
obviously, like, you know, when you sometimes get MPNs, like, you call every doctor on the list, man, from like orthopedic down. It's like, you know, the MRI is confirming possible surgical intervention. It's like no one's taking it because it's like, hey, like we don't do comp, or like our doctor's no longer there, and it's like, okay, great, like we're boiled down to like 4 doctors, and like, you know, you get one, and they turn around and go, no, we're not doing it. It's just it's hard. So when you're able to breach the medical provider network and get to a good doctor that understands their client, you're a great attorney.
That's a big win.
Yeah,
breaching
it's a great attorney.
breaching the
like,
medical provider network.
People don't understand that, you know, like how like hard it is to find a doctor that understands your client, right?
Yeah.
And like sometimes the client gets frustrated, like, where am I going to see a doctor? It's been 2 weeks. It's like, look, you got to like just be patient, you know?
Yeah.
Because I can send you to that industrial clinic down the street, but your benefits may be toast down the line. You know? So good stuff.
And there are good doctors who work at the clinics, but you know, I have a friend who I won't say his name, but he's a very good doctor, and he has his private practice,
Nice.
and he works at the clinic, and he says, unfortunately, when I treat patients at that industrial clinic, there's just a policy, you know, that we have to do them. So we got to get them, you know, we're short staffed, short on time, you know, we got to get them in and get them out.
I'm assuming it's like high volume.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, but if I'm in the network on my personal clinic, then, you know, I give them more attention and whatnot. So, you know, it's all politics, man. And it's just, it sucks. But yeah, so you like being a solo practitioner?
Yeah, it's cool. At the same time, it's hard, man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are your
hard.
plans? What's your goals?
I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure out my identity,
Okay.
you know? Like, I'm fortunate enough to have a pretty cool practice going on. I have cool staff. You know, I have good friends like you know, I can reach out to for any issues that, like, you probably saw, like, you know, in your own practice. And, you know, I guess just stay afloat and survive. You know what I mean? Not close the doors, you know?
Well, workers' comp is not going anywhere, so I think we're okay.
And what's cool about workers' comp, it's like only a few attorneys know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you literally got to be introduced to, like, this area of law. You know? You know, in law school, they teach you, like, the cool stuff, like criminal law, like where everyone in law school wants to be, like a defense attorney or district attorney or whatever. And you're like, oh, that's cool, you know? Or a big civil attorney or, like, international, whatever, you know? Like the sexy stuff, you know?
The sexy stuff.
Yeah, no one ever goes, like, workers' comp, you know what I mean? Like,
same here,
Yeah, no one goes, like, workers' comp, oh, I'm going to be that guy, or that girl, whatever, you know? And it's like, no, it's like, you know, you got to be, like, pretty much introduced to, like, this area. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When we went to Thomas Jefferson, when you went to Thomas Jefferson, did you ever think you were going to do workers' comp?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
What were you striving for in law school?
I've always wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer. That's the reason why I went to law school. Like I've wanted to be a lawyer ever since I can remember. And then, you know, I knew I wanted to do criminal defense. I was fortunate enough to intern at the district attorney's office.
Oh, nice.
And I liked it. And I liked it because I had a good supervising attorney. I was in the homicide unit.
What?
And yeah, it was cool. And I remember
that's a tough position to get, man. Law school. I remember, like, they only picked a few kids.
It was cool. It was very, very cool. And I was like, you know what? I can see myself doing this. I knew that I knew that the system was against the people who had committed crimes or the defendants in that. I knew the system was against it, right? You know, it's innocent until proven guilty, but we all know it's guilty until proven innocent, right? And I was like, you know what? If I really want to make some change, I think I have a better chance of making change working for the district attorney's office, right? Because, you know, most of the people, they are guilty, but I would want to see that the punishment fits the crime, right?
Correct.
Not everybody needs to go to jail, you know, for these crimes or need to serve long sentences. You know, they need to be rehabilitated and whatnot. So that was fun. And then out of law school, I was with the public defender's office for a very, very short period of time. And let me tell you, I loved every single day of it.
Oh, really?
It was fun. You're just in court every day. You're in court every day, you know, and it's just the hustle, boom, you know, you're willing and dealing, you're making deals. Yes, a lot of your clients are guilty, right? Most of your clients are guilty. But you have to make sure that the crime is right. I mean, that the punishment is right. You know, if somebody's, you know, a young guy's getting in trouble for, you know, a small misdemeanor, like maybe necessarily he doesn't deserve to go to jail. You know, why can't we give him a shit ton of, you know,
Probation?
charity work, probation, pay a fine, whatever. And so like that was fun. but I couldn't do it for a long time because the pay was shit.
Workers' comp pay is kind of shit.
Yeah, I remember. I think I knew that the point for me is I had a supervising attorney who was great, and I remember like 2 days in a row I saw like this dude had holes in his suits, and I was
No
like,
way.
hey, like you have to get a new suit. Like you have holes in your suit, and he was like, Robert, I can't afford to get a new suit.
Dude,
And I was like, you
crazy.
know what? I can't fucking do this. So I actually reached out. My godmother was doing workers' comp. She was a claims adjuster, a senior claims adjuster,
nice.
a supervising claims adjuster. She oversaw a lot of claims. And so she was like, hey, have you ever thought about workers' comp? I was like, what is that? Right. Yeah. And I was like, at this point, I was like, I'll just take any job, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so she reached out to a law firm. She used to send a bunch of cases to this law firm, and she reached out to them, and I interviewed with them. They took me on, and that's kind of where I started. I started learning workers' comp, and then I was fortunate enough to go in house with a staffing company who had a ton of claims, ton of workers' comp claims, and we were just very, very much gung ho. We went to trial and everything. We litigated everything, and that was good because it really gave me the experience. So
Nice.
I'm forever grateful for that. But no, I didn't think I was going to do workers' comp. 2, I'm glad I'm doing workers' comp now because I do find it very rewarding, and I sleep fine at night, knowing that I'm making these motherfuckers pay, and they're paying people. They're paying, the general labor, the blue collar workers. They are the backbone of our country.
100%,
They're the ones doing all the heavy lifting and whatnot. And and when they're injured, they get shit on. There's no one there really to take care of them, except people like us. And there's not a lot of applicant attorneys who really care about what they do, right? And I think that you and I do. And I know I've been doing applicants work since 2019. I still really haven't lost that touch. But where I want to go now is, I want to be able to help out as many people as possible. That's the reason why I'm doing this podcast too. Is like, hey, I have such a small platform. Instagram. My friends, my family, my referral. Connections. But I want to be able to reach more attorneys and let them know, like, hey, these are the things you can do. People who are going to watch and say, like, hey, like I've been in a situation, and that's why I want to spread the wealth that I know.
I feel like it's kind of like it's our responsibility to educate people who be on that poster in the freaking break room, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to tell them what their rights are because they have no idea. Like it's fascinating to me. It's like, oh, you got hurt. You reported it, but no one's telling you to file a DW-20 claim form. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what do I do? Like, I can't even, lift my toolbox right now. It's like, you got to, report the claim, get you, treated and figure you out, you know? But it's fascinating. Not a lot of people know.
Yeah.
You figure that, that would be part of, the hiring packet. Like, if you hurt at work, here it is,
Well, yes, it should be, yes. And especially here in California, we obviously have a huge language barrier. A lot of our general labor is Spanish-speaking only. So, they don't know their rights. And when they are injured, oftentimes they do get taken advantage of. They're like, oh, you can't report it. Or, there's nothing you can do. I'm sorry. Or if you do report it, you're going to lose your job. The employers tell people that. And people who don't speak English, they're afraid. So they're like, you know what? I'm not gonna file this claim. But
it's workers' comp. People like us, who go to the conventions, man, and you actually push and hope, one day, you're worthy enough to change negative law. You kind of hope the system gets better. It's fascinating how the very spirit of workers' comp is to expedite benefits, right?
Yes.
As you might both know, it's not very expeditious.
Yes, exactly.
As applicant attorneys, if there's anything I can say in this podcast to leave a message to our clients, our potential clients, is patience. Patience for sure. And it's you tell them hey, these are what we're entitled to, but we got to fight every single way. And they're like, oh, but you're an attorney. Why can't you get it quicker? It's trust me when I tell you this, I'm at the mercy of everyone's time.
Yeah.
The court schedule, the doctor schedule, there's time limits in issuing reports. It's why can't the report get published tomorrow? I saw them yesterday. I was just they have QMEs, right? They have 30 reports, 5 for mailing to send the reports. And the whole time they're just waiting, figuring themselves out. And if there's anything I tell people out there who are hurt at work, don't pursue your benefits. You're entitled to those benefits. Just be patient with them.
Have you ever had a family member get injured at work?
I did. Yeah, I know one.
Did you represent them?
No, I didn't. but like you know, if I did workers' comp at the time, I probably would. Like, I
Yeah.
probably would have told him, like, hey, like, this we should be doing, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I've represented, I think, like 2 family members before.
Was that tough?
It was the toughest cases.
Yeah?
I think
Did you cut your attorney fees?
yeah. I think
Did you cut your attorney fees on him?
No, I didn't. I wish I could have took more. I think I'll be referring my family members to another attorney next time.
Really?
No, there's just, there's, obviously they have your cell phone too, and, they're going to be blowing you up all the time, and
Yeah.
it's very personal for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Yeah, no.
And there's that emotional aspect with them, and it's a shitty situation, and it's hard to, disconnect from that too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like as practitioners, you just hope like the system gets better, because I know,
Yeah.
man, you push, like you just
Yeah.
came back from lobby day, you
Yeah.
know, like you're pushing like proposed legislation that's
Yeah.
benefit for your workers,
Yeah. Well, I went up to Sacramento recently to help legislate for new workers' comp laws. Mike and I are part of an organization, the California Applicants Attorneys Organization. And what we're there for is to... There's a lot of things that they do. One of them is we get together, we discuss new ideas, we talk about new law, but also too we do lobbying, we legislate, we try to write new legislation pro-employee, right? And somebody explained this too, but what they actually do too is they defend the law, right? It's like, hey, because sometimes insurance companies, they have their people on the side, they're lobbying for it. We need to cut these workers' comp laws, we need to get rid of cumulative traumas. And they're always trying to do that. Cumulative traumas are a huge part of workers' comp, which is the repetitive injury, an injury that happens over time. It's, a huge bulk of our claims. But, one thing, so yeah, I was just there in Sacramento. I was doing some lobbying, going from, the state legislature's office, the state senator's office, telling them like, hey, these are the laws that we want. One of them was an extension of temporary disability
That's a big one.
for the utilization review issue. You and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
One of them was the poster that you mentioned earlier, that it should be mandatory that, it should say that you do have the right to an attorney on that poster, which is huge. I think that's great.
They should blow up that
but
font,
one
too.
thing that was not on the law that, we always talk about, when we get some drinks in us and we start getting riled up and we get mad, is that, the amount of the permanent disability amount, right? So if somebody's injured and they injure their shoulder, they go to the doctor's going to say, okay, your shoulder is 6% disabled, right? And that 6% equates to, we plug it into a formula with your age, your job occupation, and that equates to a specific dollar amount. Unfortunately, that dollar amount hasn't been changed for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're working on, a value that is so outdated, that has not been in line with inflation. And I was there like, yo, what the fuck? Why are we not talking about this? Like, why is this not on the table? And the answer I continued to get was, it's not time. We're not here for that. It's not time to talk about that. If we talk about that, they're gonna want something from us, right? And it's like, I don't care. Let's put it on the table. Let's talk about it. So definitely, I will be back next year. I'm gonna be making a lot more noise. I hope you make a lot more noise too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go to like local meetings. Just spread the word. It's like, hey, like we need a higher value of permanent disability. I even went to the courthouse. I talked to the judges. I went down to Van Nuys, and I went into the judges' chambers, and I was like, hey, I want to just tell you, like, I was up in Sacramento, I was talking with the state legislators, and this is what they had to say. And some of the judges were disappointed. And one of the laws, this temporary disability laws, it's going to create more work for the court system, and they were just disappointed to hear like that. Hey, like permanent disability increase is not changing. And that sucks.
It does. Like, it's fascinating about that is like temporary total disability benefits rise upon cost of living adjustments, right? But PD doesn't. And it's like, what? Like, how are you supposed to tell a client like, hey, you're getting this much money to like $290 a week?
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And it's kind of crazy though. It's when they have utilization review now, independent medical review, treatment in our system has slowed down.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
But your T2D only lasts to a max of 104 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like we've been fighting like left and right, IMRs, URs.
Yeah.
To get MMI like 3 years later, it's like, what happened to the whole? Oh, by the way, you have to pay back PD, like the permanent disability advances they sent you, and they don't understand that. It just like I don't. You know what I mean? It's just like that's the rule, But Yeah, you're doing a great thing, man. Like extending a TTD, like yeah, people like you, like obviously like applicant attorneys, they should be pushing for that agenda.
Yeah.
It's like if you want IMR to UR to stick around, like you gotta extend TTD because like medical treatment, like right now it's lagging.
Yeah.
100%. So hopefully that changes pretty soon.
Yeah. What's your hugest pet peeve, like being an AA?
Failure to provide authorization for medical treatment.
Oh, that's
I
the
hate
worst.
that, man.
That's the worst.
Yeah, no, like for me, like my first move on a case is an expedited hearing, just because of that very issue. It's like, hello, like you're not responding to my emails or like correspondence. Like, where you at? And it just frustrating how they don't like when adjusters or defense don't respond until after you file the expedited hearing, after you did the pre-trial conference statement, after you showed up and put that suit on for your client. You know? In the back end, you're telling the client, like, hey, we're doing our best. And then the front, like, actual file, it's like you're yelling at people, and it's like you said, man, like you travel and you're finally there, you grab that piece of authorization and you take it off calendar. It's like, where were you at like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, they're assholes.
Yeah, 100%. It's like people should be pushing for penalties and stuff like that. On that
I agree.
Issue. Yeah, that should be a thing too within the community.
Some of these attorneys are just lazy too. They don't. I just know they just don't respond to emails and they don't do that. That's Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of emails every single day. That's what my job pretty much consists of is answering emails
or client calls. You know how that goes. A lot of it. That and then like late night like filing petitions or doing IMR. It's a lot of work on a file, man.
It is. It is a lot of work.
It's crazy.
So hopefully we'll have some change here. Also, too, I noticed that you seem to always be scared to sub out another law firm. Whenever it happens, you call me, you're like, Rob, you're like, do you know this attorney? Like, because I'm going to sub him out. And I'm like, dude, just sub him out. Who cares? Why is that?
So, like, where I was taught in San Diego.
Okay.
In San Diego, it's a smaller community. There's a
You're
sense
right.
of, like, respect, So when I see a name that sounds familiar, like, I reach out to people because I don't know them personally. I'm, like, the new kid in the block, right? I'm like, hey, like, are you, are they cool? Should I give them a courtesy and be like, hey, your client's like looking to like hire another attorney?
Yeah.
For San Diego, that happens. Like they'll call like their buddy down the street, like, hey man, like your client's over here, looking to fire you. Maybe you should give them a call and like try to like amend the relationship. So I think it's like out of habit.
Yeah, you're right because you're absolutely right. And when I was up north, in Sacramento, there was a lot of Northern California lawyers there, and it was a tighter knit community, and so I guess I can see that. And LA is so big, if I get a sub attorney, I'm like, fuck them, like I'm gonna take their case, If the client's unhappy, then I'll take the case. But I get it. If it's a smaller community, obviously, like if something were to come to the door and it's my friend, that has happened. That has happened. Have you subbed this out?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. I thought that maybe you called one time. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, I've had that happen where I called my friend and I was like, hey, someone's in the office. Like, I think the rapport with at that point, it's just like, okay, sign them. Just sign them. It's all good. There's enough business to go around for.
Have you ever had to go to trial on like attorney fee split?
No, I haven't. I have not had to go to trial on an attorney fee split, and the only reason why is because the judges won't allow us to do it. And they're like, "You're fucking crazy. You're not gonna waste my time doing this. Y'all better, get this done.
Get in the fucking hallway and talk about
it.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you can't work it out, then I'm just gonna continue you and make you come back here. But that definitely has happened, especially like you have these huge firms who, I guess, fuck it, I'm just gonna say it, Morgan & Morgan, like that kind of firm, like, dude, they don't do shit, right? And I don't know if I should have said that, but oh well. Like I subbed it on a file, and this file is so complicated because they didn't do anything. I remember the client came to me, he got hit in the back of the head, and I remember he came to me and I was like, look, the only thing I can do for you at this point is get you to a neutral doctor, the QME, and settle your case. I can't get you treatment because you're so far out that I can't get any doctor to take your case because they're so afraid they're not going to get paid. And we're still fighting because, the insurance company, there was such a huge gap. And that's just the kind of bullshit that, I'm going to say, like, hey, you shouldn't get any money because, if we do settle a case and there's two attorneys, the attorney should get something, right? If you worked on the file and you were subbed out, you should be entitled to some portion of the fee.
Yeah. I remember subbing into a case, like seeing a case before deciding to sub in. the file was so fucked up, man. Like, you don't even know where to begin. Have you ever seen those, like, files? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you haven't seen a doctor in 3 months. No one has requested a panel, and it's
Yeah.
like your TTD is about to expire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, I'm surprised they didn't cut your benefits off.
Yeah.
Like, you haven't had a report that says like, work status report in like 3 months. You
Yeah.
know? And it's like, when you see those, you're like, oh man, this is gonna be a long one, man.
Yeah.
You know?
What about bad clients? Have you had bad clients?
Oh yeah. And work
Yeah.
is not, No, I don't.
Everybody has bad clients.
Yeah.
I understand that you're in an unfortunate situation because you get injured, but sometimes bad people are just bad people.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I had a bad person. Like, it's just more of an impatient person. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
that's true.
Yeah, like they just don't understand the system because, like, I can imagine, man, if I was like making X amount of money,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it comes to a screeching halt,
Yeah.
and they denied your fucking claim, and you're going to EDD, they're paying like
Yeah.
66%. You're like, oh, cool. Like, I got an eviction notice, man. You know what I mean? Like, I can
Yeah.
only imagine, like,
Yeah, you're
how
gonna be
fucking
pissed.
stressed I'd be.
Yeah.
I'd be calling my attorney too. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
Like, this roof's about to get peeled off my, like, on top of me, man. You know? So I wouldn't say like a bad person, more like an impatient person. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. How about you? Any like bad clients? You're like, fuck.
Just this guy who went to jail twice within the same span of his claim. I was like, bro, you're making it very hard for me.
Yeah.
But when he got out, the first time he got out, like his claim continued. I was like, he wasn't gone for that long. I was like, okay, we can get you back into treatment.
Yeah.
And the second time, I was like, damn, like I don't think I can get you into treatment, but probably the best thing we can do
Settle
is,
this shit out.
is just settle your case.
Yeah.
But he had a legitimate injury. I remember his injuries were legit, but he just couldn't stay out of trouble.
Accepted claim or?
Yeah, it was accepted
nice.
liability claim.
Did they set his depot?
I don't remember if they took his depot,
Yeah.
and if they did, he probably couldn't obtain because he was in
That
jail.
was my question too.
Yeah.
Like, would you have to go through the phone and be like, answer the question?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. And are you liking this? Like, since post-pandemic, we do these court hearings, over the phone or via Zoom.
Someone asked me that while I was in court not too long ago because I was practicing when it was like COVID.
Yeah.
And you remember that? It was like hustle and bustle, man.
Yeah.
Like 3 appearances in the morning, and then you get to your desk, like you do 2 hours worth of work, and hope to God you don't have an afternoon or like
Yeah.
not a depot because those wipe you out. I like it now because like you can like get a lot more stuff done quicker, right?
Yeah.
I think it's more efficient, I guess. Expedited hearings obviously are in person. That's why I hate filing expedited hearings.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
You got to
then-
do it sometimes.
Yeah, then like having to go to trial because like you guys can't agree on a permanent disability amount. That's fucking frustrating. I like it more. You know what I mean? It forces like people, I guess, to like talk more.
Yeah.
But I do miss seeing people in the court though, like colleagues and like some defense attorneys that you do like.
Yeah.
It's like saying what's up and like you can like stop and talk about a case real quick
Yeah.
and like hopefully like resolve one while like on the way out the door.
Yeah.
So.
That's why we got to get together more often.
Oh yeah, 100%. Man.
And do that.
Yeah.
And what about when you're not working? What are you doing?
Hanging out with kids. With my kids.
How many kids do you have?
2 boys, man.
All right. What are
Yeah.
their ages?
3 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah, they're crazy though.
Yeah.
It's fun, being a family man.
Yeah.
It's that's pretty rewarding too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still single, so. But I think a lot of people forget, like, us lawyers, we have a personal life.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we have a life outside the courtroom. We have a life outside the office. And, like, that's what we talked about earlier. It's like, I try not to let it bleed into my life. I always just try to tell the client, look, like, I have your best interest at heart because your best interest is to get the most money possible, right?
Right.
The more money you get, the more money I get, right? I know we got to get our clients treatment, but, I'm going to do everything I can to get you the maximum compensation, right? But, sometimes I need to go on a cruise with my friends and whatnot.
Yeah.
Sometimes clients get mad when you're on vacation.
Do you
They're
ever
like,
get one like? Oh, I mean, do you allow like clients to text your business phone? And stuff?
Some clients have my cell phone, depending on the relationship and who, like one, who referred them over, to, the type of case that they have. And so, some cases, the cumulative trauma cases where they're on EDD, I don't necessarily need to be in contact with them all the time. But, some clients need treatment, all the time. That cervical fusion surgery I need, like, the people who are going to be 100% disabled, sometimes like, they can be going to the hospital and whatnot. So, like I do give them my cell phone and I try to tell them, please be respectful, like I may not answer after 6 because, I'm going to be having dinner and whatnot. So,
Yeah. Do you ever like clients that just like are like persistent talking to you, like they're trying to get through like your case manager, your sessions, like,
Yeah.
I need to talk to Rob right now. And
Yeah.
you're like, all right, I'll talk to you. You know?
I always tell clients, email me. It's like, email
Exactly.
me. If you email me, I
Yeah.
will respond, because I'm not always in the office. I'm running around the court or I'm on court call. Like, if you email me, I will see your email and I will either call you or I will respond to your email. But email me, because sometimes too, like, they call and then, if you talk to them, like, they'll give you this long explanation and then you're like, okay, and they expect you to know the answer right away, right? It's like, no, I don't know your file like that, right? I can't memorize every single person's file.
yeah.
The minute, once they start coming back, but if we're going to trial, you best bet, like, I am going to know the one who's the most prepared is the one who always wins at trial and court hearings. I'm good at what I do because I always try to be so prepared before a court hearing.
You're a trench attorney, man. You're in court all the time. That's that's why I respect you guys a lot, man, because I know you guys are in court all the time.
Yeah.
Same thing with me. Like, it's just, like the everyday phone calls of like, oh, status. It's like, oh, we talked like last week, and it's like, oh, like what happened to this doctor? Like, you have an appointment, and they're like, oh, like, there's something, can we reschedule? You're like, man, I fought for that. Or like, like, I don't want to go to that doctor. It's like, I fought for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that type of stuff. It's grind, man.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Like, I don't picture myself being like one of those fancy ass like civil attorneys or like international law, like, business.
me.
Yeah, nah, man. Like,
Yeah.
I like it, dude.
Although I'm doing personal injury now, and I think you should do
Nice.
it, bro. I
Yeah.
really do think you should do it. Personal injury is a whole different ball game, and it's so funny because treatment is so easy there.
I heard.
You
Yeah.
never have clients complain about treatment because you can literally get appointments the next day.
Dude, that's so nice.
Yeah,
man.
the lean, the way they work on a lean basis as opposed to workers' comp is completely different. And personal injury, I like it because you have these I'm handling a litigation department, and that's where we have these like contested cases, right? Where both drivers are at fault, and who's more at fault, right? I have this case right now against the city of Los Angeles. I'm sorry, the county of Los Angeles. A bus driver, he was speeding down the middle of the lane. The bus driver's there's traffic, a ton of traffic, and he's going in the center lane. And my client. Yes, he made an illegal turn, not from the left turning lane. They crashed, and it's like, well, who's more at fault? I'm like, well, like, let's put our big boy shoes on, and I'll see you in court.
Yeah,
and
man, I can imagine, like, contributory negligence.
Contributory negligence, yeah.
It sounds like a big thing. Like the big defense, I bet,
I'm super competitive, so
No,
like,
I know you are, man.
That's
Yeah.
why I like court and whatnot.
Yeah, if you weren't competitive, man, you wouldn't be as successful, man.
I
Like,
appreciate
that.
that.
Yeah, I can imagine that's pretty litigious, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine that for sure. But that's cool. Are you doing anything else besides personal injury, or?
No, just personal injury, workers' comp. Yeah, that's all I got going right now.
What about employment labor stuff? Would you like venture into that?
Yeah, I have done some employment law cases, wrongful termination. I call myself justice warrior, because it's like, hey, like, I love justice. Like, justice is what I do, right? It's like, I representing employers, no justice there. Representing employees, justice. Representing somebody who got fired who got terminated wrongfully, justice, right? Represent somebody who was in a bad car accident due to someone else's negligence, justice. So I liked the wrongful termination cases. Those were my favorite.
Really?
But they are very, very time consuming. And now that I'm delving into personal injury, I'm not really taking those cases on anymore. But because those are the ones too. It's like, hey, you got to put your big boy shoes on. You got to go to court, and they're going to come at you heavy. So that's fun. And what I learned is that I'm good in court, and what I learned is that these same jackass defense attorneys are the same in workers' comp and personal injury, right?
I bet.
Yeah, like one of my first personal injury cases, the defense attorney called me and he was like, "How's the hardest working attorney in LA?" I was like, "Bro, you don't know me, like they're just trying to bullshit you." Yeah. To me it's all the same. They don't want to work.
People like defense attorneys who usually act like that. It's like they're like, I don't know, man. They're like whack as shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the ones who are like talking to you like straight up. Is the ones you need to be like, oh shit,
Yeah.
Like, this guy's gonna fucking fight, man, Yeah. And those are the ones who are like the very respectable defense attorneys. Like, for me, like, I guess, like, I learn a lot from like defense attorneys who are like the calm ones, because those are the ones who are like, the fuck is he so calm about? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like, I'm about to fuck this shit up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how come he's not talking shit? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like, I'm like, oh,
it's a ninja.
It's
a
like,
ninja.
You gotta start issuing subpoenas, man.
Yeah.
This motherfucker knows something I don't.
There are some good defense attorneys out there who do they do their job, they're doing the right thing. Ralph Mitchell, Allweiss, and McMurdy. I'll shout that guy out all day.
Yeah.
Him and I just exchanged the email exchange. He was like, "Why did you do that? I thought we were cool." And I was like, "Bro, you're still one of my favorite persons.
Yeah.
I still like you, but don't take it personal. Like I gotta
Yeah.
file this." And he was like, "Touche, bro." So there's just certain people like they're doing their job, and I get that. Well.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on my show.
Thank
I
you, Rob.
appreciate you being my first guest.
Thank
I know
you,
you're killing it. I know you're gonna, continue to grow your firm. You're gonna continue to, this enterprise of representing injured workers. I hope you expand into personal injury, because I think that if you take this passion and you apply it to that field of law, you're gonna be able to help just as many people,
I
Michael.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Rob. And I'm excited to see your podcast grow as well,
thanks,
man.
thanks. Yeah, I can't wait to see what I have next. So for all of you listening, thank you. I appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment. Any suggestions, I'll take them all day. Subscribe and like, and thank you for joining us.
Have a good day, everyone.
It's a wrap.